Today we will be making a delicious pineapple coconut semi-homemade cake. We're going to be using a couple of boxes. That's why I'm saying it's semi-homemade. So it's super easy and quick to make, but it is such a crowd pleaser. So let's get started. We will need one box, that's 5.1 ounces of instant vanilla pudding, 3 cups of cold milk for the pudding. We will need one box of the super moist French vanilla cake mix. And for the cake mix, we will use 3 eggs, 1 cup of pineapple juice, a half cup of oil, and we're going to mix in a half cup of shredded coconut. Pictured here, I actually have 1 cup of shredded sweetened coconut, but I'm going to only use half for the cake and the other half for the topping. We will also need 1 can of crushed pineapples in 100% pineapple juice. This is for topping as well. And lastly, we will need some baking chocolate that we're going to shave and top the cake with. Now to start making the cake, I will empty the cake mix into a bowl, a large bowl that you can easily mix with. Then I will add to it the 3 eggs, 1 cup of pineapple juice, the half cup of oil, and a half cup of shredded sweetened coconut. This recipe calls for water on the box, but I will use 1 cup of pineapple juice instead of the water just to give it a little bit extra flavor. I'll be using a hand mixer today, but if you have a stand mixer, you can use that as well. I'll start mixing the cake on low speed just until the ingredients are incorporated. Then I'm going to increase the speed and mix the cake for about a minute or a minute and a half until it looks smooth and I don't see any lumps in the batter. Make sure that you scrape the sides of the bowl halfway through mixing just to make sure that you incorporate everything. Now that the batter is nice and smooth, I mixed it for a minute and a half. I am going to preheat the oven to 350 degrees. And I also will grease the bottom and the sides of a cake pan. Here we need to use a 9 by 13 inch cake pan, and I will be using a non-stick baking spray to spray the sides and the bottom. Now that the pan is greased, I'm going to pour in my cake batter, then stick it in the oven. Make sure that you bake it on the middle rack for 30 minutes. I will show you guys this when it comes out of the oven. While the cake is baking, we can go ahead and prepare everything else for the toppings. I will start by toasting the coconut. All you need here is a small pan and it should be heated over medium heat. I'm going to pour in the coconut and we will continue to stir it over medium heat until it becomes golden brown. Once you see that the color is starting to change, you can lower the heat and stir constantly so they don't burn. As soon as they get to the color that you desire, just like a nice golden brown, we are going to remove them from the heat and put them in a separate bowl to cool down. It's important to remove them from the pan so they don't continue to toast, and this whole process took me 3 minutes, just so you can have a reference point of how long this step takes. Next, we will make the instant vanilla pudding, and I'm just going to prepare it according to the package directions. So I'm pouring in 3 cups of cold milk into a bowl. Then I'm going to add the pudding mix. And using my hand mixer, I will whisk them together for 2 full minutes. And that's pretty much it. After 5 minutes, the pudding will be soft set. Place the pudding in the fridge until we are going to top the cake with it. Next, we can work on shaving some of the baking chocolate. And this step is completely optional, so if you feel like you want to skip it, please feel free to do that. You don't really need much. I'm going to be shaving approximately 1 square of baking chocolate, then setting it aside to top the cake with. Lastly, we will need to bring the crushed pineapples and the juice to a simmer. This step, I'm doing it last because it needs to be hot when the cake comes out of the oven. This will make it easier for the juice to soak into the cake. Using a small saucepan over medium-high heat, pour in the crushed pineapples with their juice and bring them to a simmer. Make sure that the whole thing is heated thoroughly, and you can turn off the heat and set them aside. This should take about 1 minute. Our cake just came out of the oven. It's still hot and the pineapples are hot, so using a toothpick, I'm going to poke holes all over the cake and spoon the pineapples and the juice over it. I found that using a spoon here is a lot better than just pouring it from the small saucepan because you can spread the juices and the pineapples more evenly. Now that we are done spreading the pineapples, we need the cake to completely cool before we add the pudding and the rest of the toppings to it. So I'm going to stick it in the fridge for an hour. By the way, this cake is best served the next day. So I'm going to top it and then leave it in the fridge until the next day. And I highly encourage you to do that as well. I just pulled out the cake and the pudding from the fridge. Our cake has cooled down for an hour. Now I'm going to spread the pudding on top. I'm going to try to spread it as evenly as possible without disturbing any of the pineapples. Next, I will top it with the toasted coconuts, which at this point should have also cooled down and they should be a good temperature to handle. Lastly, I will top it with the shaved chocolates. I also stuck these in the fridge just so they're a little bit colder and they don't melt in my hand while I am spreading them on the cake. And voila, now our cake is ready. Please, if you can, and if you could resist to cut into it, leave it in the fridge until the next day because it will taste so much better. And this can hold in the fridge for a week. It will be fine. The longer it sits, the better that it will taste. So I hope this recipe turns out great for you. Let us know how you like it in the comment section.